Right. So, you know those subjects you see on a typical syllabus? Well, we're going to kind of go beyond those today, kind of like peek into a hidden curriculum,
Oh, yeah.
like essential skills for life, not the kind you always learn in a classroom.
It really is fascinating how these skills, they're often just overlooked,
Yeah,
but they have such a big impact, not just, in school, but in life, period.
totally. It's those abilities that help you figure out the real world, the stuff that helps you succeed in your career, your relationships, how you feel about yourself, even. You'd be surprised how much this stuff matters.
Especially, like, think about the world today, right?
Yeah,
Things are changing so fast, tech is just exploding, and the job market's all over the place. It's not just knowing stuff anymore.
you're right.
It's more about how you adapt, how you think critically, how you solve problems, like on the spot.
Okay, so let's break down some of these skills. And I'm really curious, how do we actually develop these? What are the concrete things we can do? So first up, something everyone struggles with no matter how old you are, time management and organization.
Oh, the never-ending struggle.
Right.
It goes way beyond just meeting deadlines. It's about how you organize your day, how you decide what's important, how you use time in a way that works. Think of it like this. You've got 24 hours, just like everyone else, right?
Right.
But what you do with those hours, that's what makes the difference.
So true. So it's not about getting more time. It's like using the time you already have better.
Exactly.
But how do we move beyond just talking about it? How do we build good habits? Any practical tips, techniques?
So many ways to go about it,
Yeah,
and what works for one person might not work for another.
I agree.
But two things that tend to work well. Have you ever tried like time blocking or task batching?
I have dabbled with both of them, but I gotta say, I'm not always the best at keeping it up.
Yeah.
So tell me more about how they work. Maybe I can pick up some pointers.
Sure. So time blocking, that's basically you're scheduling blocks of time for different tasks. So instead of just having this big to-do list, you're actually putting it on your calendar, assigning time for each thing.
Yeah.
It kind of forces you to be real about how much you can get done in a day. Helps avoid taking on too much.
That's a good point, because I often underestimate how long things take, and then I just end up feeling overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah.
So what about task batching? How's that different?
Task batching is more about grouping similar things together to work smarter. So instead of jumping back and forth between emails, phone calls, and like a big project, you'd set aside specific times for each type of thing. Helps you get in the zone, avoid that mental drain from switching gears all the time.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, because I can definitely see how that would make you more productive and less scattered and interrupted all the time. But good time management, it's not just about getting stuff done, right?
Right.
It's about reducing stress too.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. When you have a clear plan, a system for your time, you feel way more in control, less overwhelmed, you're ready for whatever comes your way. It's like having a map instead of wandering around lost.
Yeah, or like packing for a trip in advance.
Exactly.
That feeling of calm when you know where everything is, no last-minute panic. So good time management, it really helps our daily lives.
But what about the bigger picture? How does this tie into goals and motivating ourselves?
So that's where goal setting and self-motivation really come into play in this SMART goals framework. It's a really powerful tool.
Okay, so smart.
SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
So instead of saying, I want to be more organized, I'd say, I'm going to use time blocking for my work and track my progress for a month.
Right.
You got it. You're taking a vague idea and turning it into something concrete.
Yeah.
You have clear steps and a way to track how you're doing. This keeps you motivated because you can actually see what success looks like, and you have a path to follow. It's like a GPS for your goals instead of just wandering around hoping you find them.
Exactly.
And I bet that feeling of accomplishment when you reach those milestones, it kind of reinforces the positive habit, right?
Exactly. That's the beauty of SMART goals. They give you structure, you're accountable, you have direction, and as you hit those smaller goals, you build momentum, you feel more confident, and taking on bigger challenges doesn't seem so daunting anymore.
So speaking of challenges, let's talk about another essential skill that goes hand in hand with self-motivation, critical thinking, and problem solving. These seem so important for navigating life's complexities, but how do they fit into this hidden curriculum we're talking about?
Well, with critical thinking, it's about moving beyond just accepting information as it's presented to you.
Okay.
It's about asking why and how, analyzing the evidence, looking at things from different angles, and forming your own conclusions, becoming an active learner, not just passively taking in information.
So it's not just knowing the answer, it's understanding why it's the answer and being able to think for yourself. That's so valuable, especially with all this information coming at us from every direction these days. How do we even start developing those critical thinking skills?
One really powerful way is to just be curious, to approach information with a questioning mindset. Don't take things at face value.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, where's this information coming from? Is it credible? Are there any biases? What are the assumptions behind it? This kind of questioning, it helps you develop a sharper, more analytical approach to the world.
It's like training your brain to be a detective, always looking for clues and questioning assumptions and piecing together the evidence.
Exactly.
But critical thinking is only one part of it, right? We also have to be able to use that thinking to actually solve problems.
Absolutely. Problem solving, that's taking those critical thinking skills and applying them to real-life situations. It's figuring out the root cause of a problem, coming up with possible solutions, seeing if they're feasible, and then putting the best approach into action.
So it's not just theory, it's putting that knowledge to work, finding solutions to the challenges we face every single day.
That's it. Think of it as turning knowledge into action. And this is valuable no matter what you're doing. A technical issue at work, a conflict with someone you care about, even just figuring out how to fix a leaky faucet.
So it's like having a mental toolkit filled with different problem-solving strategies ready to go whenever something comes up.
Perfect analogy. And just like any toolkit, the more tools you have and the more skilled you are at using them, the better you can handle all kinds of problems.
We've talked about managing time, setting goals, thinking critically, problem solving. These are all key, but let's be real, life isn't always easy. We all hit bumps in the road in stressful situations. How do we prepare for those tough times? What about emotional regulation and resilience? Where do those fit into this hidden curriculum?
It's like they're the shock absorbers for life, helping us deal with all the bumps and potholes.
I love that. So it's not about pretending the tough stuff isn't there. It's more like learning how to handle those emotions so they don't completely throw us off track. But how do you even build that kind of inner strength? It feels like some people are just naturally better at dealing with stress than others.
Well, some folks might be predisposed to certain traits, sure.
Right.
But resilience, it's not like some fixed thing. It's something we can work on, strengthen over time.
Yeah,
Practice and the right tools make a difference.
that's good to hear. It means we're not just stuck with whatever coping mechanisms we have now. We can actually get better at this.
Definitely.
So what are some of those tools we can add to our, resilience toolkit?
Tons of techniques out there, really. What works best often depends on the person and the challenges they're facing. But some things that tend to be really effective are mindfulness, deep breathing, and reframing those negative thoughts.
Mindfulness, that seems to be like the buzzword everywhere these days. What exactly is it? And how does it help us regulate our emotions?
Think of it as paying attention to the present moment without judgment. Becoming aware of your thoughts, feelings, sensations, but not getting swept away by them.
So instead of dwelling on the past or worrying about the future, you're just bringing your attention to what's happening right here, right now.
You got it. And that simple shift, it can have a huge impact on how we feel. By being more aware of our thoughts and emotions, we can start to detach from them a little.
Yeah.
Create some space. Lets us choose how we respond instead of just reacting without thinking.
That makes sense. It's like creating a buffer between what's happening and our reaction to it. What about deep breathing? Where does that fit in?
Deep breathing, it's a great way to calm the nervous system down.
Yeah.
When we're stressed, anxious, our breathing gets all shallow and fast.
Oh, yeah.
Triggers that fight or flight response.
Tell me about it. That tightness in your chest, heart racing, like your body's ready for battle, even though it's just a deadline or a tough conversation.
Exactly. But when we slow down, deepen our breath on purpose, it sends a signal to the body.
Yeah.
It's safe to relax, helps reduce that anxiety and overwhelm.
So simple but effective, interrupting that stress response and taking back some control. I'm going to be practicing my deep breathing for sure. You mentioned reframing negative thoughts earlier. What's that all about?
Reframing, it's about taking those negative thoughts and challenging them, replacing them with something more balanced,
Yeah.
realistic.
Okay.
It's realizing that our thoughts aren't always facts.
Right.
We have a choice in how we interpret them.
So instead of getting stuck in that spiral of, I can't do this, or this is a disaster waiting to happen, you take a step back and ask, okay, what's the evidence for this? Is there another way to look at this? What would I tell a friend who is going through this?
Exactly. Challenging those automatic negative thoughts, looking for other explanations. It takes time and practice, But over time, it helps you build a more positive and resilient mindset.
I love the idea of turning that inner critic into something more supportive. It seems like these techniques, the mindfulness, the breathing, the reframing, they can really help us handle stress and those tough emotions. But what about when we hit those bigger setbacks, the stuff
Yeah.
that really knocks us down? How do we build that resilience to get back up and keep going?
Resilience, it's not just coping with stress. It's bouncing back from adversity, learning from our mistakes, coming out stronger on the other side of those challenges.
So it's not about avoiding setbacks altogether.
Nope.
It's about developing that strength to weather the storm. So what are some of the things that help us build that kind of resilience?
Having a good support system is huge.
Okay.
Family, friends, mentors, a therapist, anyone you can turn to for emotional support, encouragement, practical advice, it makes a world of difference.
It's that reminder that we're not alone, that everyone goes through tough times. Sometimes just having someone who listens and understands can be so healing and empowering. What other qualities help build resilience?
A growth mindset is essential. It's the belief that we can develop our abilities and intelligence through effort, learning, perseverance.
So it's not about being perfect or naturally gifted. It's more about embracing challenges as opportunities to grow, seeing setbacks as valuable feedback, not failures.
Exactly. People with a growth mindset, they're more likely to keep going when things get tough, to look for new things to learn, and to bounce back from setbacks with even more determination.
It's like that saying, fall 7 times, stand up 8. Just that unwavering belief in our ability to learn, adapt, overcome.
And a big part of developing that mindset is self-compassion. Treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer a friend who's struggling.
So instead of beating yourself up for mistakes, you're giving yourself encouragement and support.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that everyone makes mistakes, that setbacks are a normal part of learning. Self-compassion, it helps you let go of that harsh self-judgment and approach challenges with a more balanced and supportive attitude.
Like being your own best friend, your own cheerleader, giving yourself that support even when things are tough.
Exactly. And when you combine that self-compassion with a growth mindset and a solid support system, you create a strong foundation for resilience. You're better equipped to handle challenges, learn from experiences, and come out stronger in the end.
We've covered a lot, from managing time effectively to building that resilience for challenges. It's all so valuable. But I'm wondering, how does it all fit together? Is there something that connects all these different skills?
That's a great question. I think it all comes down to self-awareness.
Okay.
Time management, emotional regulation, problem solving, all these things rely on our ability to understand ourselves, our strengths, weaknesses, values, goals.
So it's not just about learning techniques, it's about understanding who we are and how we operate in the world.
Exactly. Self-awareness is the base everything else is built on. It helps us see where we need to grow, make choices that align with our values, communicate our needs clearly, manage our emotions in healthy ways.
Like having a map of our own inner landscape so we can navigate our thoughts and feelings and actions with more intention.
Beautiful analogy. And the more self-aware we become, the better we are at making conscious choices, developing the skills we need, and creating a fulfilling and meaningful life.
That's a powerful insight. It's not just about specific techniques. It's a journey of self-discovery and growth that lasts a lifetime.
Absolutely. And it's not always easy. It takes honesty, courage, a willingness to step outside our comfort zones.
Yeah.
But the rewards are incredible.
As we wrap up this part, it's really striking me that these essential skills aren't just about traditional success. They're about building a life that's rich, meaningful, and true to ourselves.
Couldn't agree more. It's about cultivating the inner strength we need to handle life's challenges with grace, resilience, and purpose. It's about becoming the best versions of ourselves, not just for us, but for our communities and the world.
And what better time to start that journey of personal growth than right now? We'll be back soon for the last part of our deep dive. We'll hear some inspiring stories about people who embraced these skills and saw how they can make a difference, not just in their own lives, but in the lives of others too. Welcome back. It's amazing how much we've talked about already, from time management to emotional regulation to resilience.
It has been quite a journey. And it really just highlights how these skills, the ones people call soft skills,
Yeah.
are anything but soft.
Yeah.
They're the foundation for dealing with all the messy stuff in life, reaching our goals, building a life we actually enjoy.
For sure. But I'm really eager to hear about, some real life examples, like see these skills in action when they actually made a difference for someone.
I have a few stories in mind. People who not only embraced these skills, but actually saw how they could create positive change, both personally and professionally.
Okay, let's hear them. I'm ready for some inspiration.
So this first story is about someone we'll call Alex, a young entrepreneur trying to get their startup going. They had a great idea, tons of passion, but they were constantly feeling overwhelmed and disorganized.
I can totally relate to that. Starting anything new just throws so many challenges at you, especially when it comes to managing time and priorities.
Yeah.
So, what was Alex's turning point?
They realized they needed a system, a way to put their vision into action. And that's when they discovered time blocking and task batching.
Oh, nice.
They started scheduling specific blocks of time for certain tasks, like marketing, product development, networking, all that.
So, they went from feeling scattered and reactive to having a more structured approach.
Exactly. And they started batching similar tasks together, which made them more efficient, helped them stay focused. The result, they felt more in control of their time, made real progress on their startup, and even found more time for self-care, which, like we said before, is so important for keeping your energy and focus up.
It's amazing how these small tweaks to how we manage our time can affect so many different areas of our lives. What about the next story?
This one's about a woman we'll call Sarah, a teacher who was just burnt out,
Oh, yeah.
disillusioned with her career. She loved her students, but the demands of the job were draining her, and she couldn't find any balance.
Being a teacher is so demanding. It takes so much emotional energy and resilience. So, what helped Sarah get through that tough spot?
She realized she needed to take care of herself, and find better ways to cope with stress. So she started doing some mindfulness practices every day, just short breaks throughout the day to focus on her breathing, reconnect with the present moment.
It's such a good reminder that self care isn't selfish. It's essential for being able to show up for yourself and the people around you. Did those mindfulness practices help her?
They really did. She found that even those few minutes of mindful breathing helped her calm down, reduce anxiety, and approach her work with a clearer head and more compassion. She also started setting boundaries, learning to say no to extra commitments that were just wearing her down.
Boundaries are so important, but I bet they can be tough to set, especially for teachers. There's always so much going on, always another demand on your time. Was it hard for Sarah to put those boundaries in place?
It was a little tricky at first, but as she practiced communicating her needs more directly, she actually gained more respect from her colleagues
Yeah.
and felt empowered to protect her time and energy. And because of that, she felt more balanced, more energized, and more fulfilled at work.
It's inspiring to hear how she was able to bring back that joy and purpose to her career. Okay, what's the last story?
This one's about a guy named Michael going through a major life change. He'd been laid off from a job he had for over 20 years. He was feeling lost, uncertain about what was next.
That's a huge change. It's easy to feel totally overwhelmed and discouraged in that situation. So, what helped Michael get through that?
He knew he needed a shift in mindset, go from fear and scarcity to possibility and growth. He started exploring new interests, took some online courses, started networking with people in different fields.
So, he focused on what he could control instead of dwelling on the things he couldn't.
Exactly. He also leaned on his support system, reached out to friends, family, former colleagues for advice and encouragement. And instead of seeing this job loss as a failure, he thought of it as a chance for a fresh start.
I love that reframing. It's so easy to fall into negative thinking, but when you consciously choose a different perspective, it opens up all these new possibilities. So, how did things end up for Michael?
Well, he landed a job in a new field that he was really passionate about. He even started his own side business. It was something he always wanted to do, but never felt confident enough to try before.
That's amazing. His story really shows the power of resilience, being adaptable, and that willingness to embrace change.
It does. It shows how these skills, these essential life skills, can help us not only deal with challenges, but actually help us move towards a more fulfilling life.
It's as we wrap up our deep dive here, it's clear these skills aren't just theoretical. They're practical tools that can help us make positive changes in our lives and in the world around us.
Couldn't agree more. Whether it's everyday stuff or big life changes, these skills give us a foundation to handle things with resilience, clarity, and purpose.
And it's never too late to start working on them. If you're feeling inspired, remember there are so many resources out there. Books, articles, workshops, coaching programs.
The important thing is to start somewhere. Figure out where you want to grow, and then take those small steps towards building those skills, one day at a time.
And like we've seen from these stories, even small changes can make a big difference.
Absolutely. And you don't have to do it alone. Reach out to your support system, Find mentors or coaches and celebrate your wins along the way.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the hidden curriculum.
It's been great exploring these essential life skills with you.
And until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep thriving.